Okay. Okay. So, well, thank you for joining today's third session of this Graviton training. In the two first sections, we talked about trust creation. We talked about nonviolent communication, and we talked about theories of conflict and how to see conflict as something not bad and as something transformative. But in this session, we are going to go more practical in how to manage disputes and what are some of the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that we can apply to our decentralized context, and also some of the mechanisms and techniques to address conflict the most peaceful way and in the best way possible. So you can deliver your answers in the type form, but still I will send the link to the POAP to the participants. So we are going to start with how to manage disputes. As I told before, the two previous sessions were to prevent disputes, to create trust, and to see and to change the mindset of how we see disputes into something that is not negative or something that we're not close to, but something that we need to address and manage. So, what is alternative dispute resolution? And it means any method or mechanism of resolving disputes other than litigation. And that is based on communication and of trust, and in legitimacy on the agreement. Those are the three pillars of alternative dispute resolution: communication, trust, and legitimacy on the actions taken. So litigation is one form of solving conflicts, but it is a form that is costly, both economical and in human resources and in time. To address a conflict through litigation, depending on the country, can take you several years, and this way of handling disputes through litigation does not encourage so much communication or trust, rather than the respect of an external authority taking a decision. But the base of alternative dispute resolution is that the solution of the decision can come from the parties involved. So there are many alternative dispute resolution techniques in the world, and each country delimitates it with laws in a particular matter. So there are some of ADR, alternative dispute resolution, that are common between Spanish-speaking countries, and there are other alternative dispute resolution that are framed differently in other languages. So it's like they have this same basis of the different techniques of ADR have this same basis of communication, trust, and legitimacy, but they are handled differently and presented differently in each of these techniques. So there is arbitration, mediation, conciliation, justice circle, rent-a-judge program, summary jury trial, mini trial, and there can be combined forms and hybrids to a particular dispute or legal jurisdiction. So what I am telling you is that yes, ADR have this core mechanisms that are like arbitration, mediation, conciliation, but there are different varieties and like approaches to handling a dispute with or an alternative dispute resolution to that dispute. Sorry. And handled with the sufficient skill, ADR can bring an opponent into the venture as well as all parties joining in a non-adversarial search for a mutual beneficial outcome. And the chances of success for any of the ADRs rely on the premises that the parties are committed to the idea of managing the issue peacefully and willing to act in good faith. I mean, if there is like a war, there is, or like if the parties are harming each other, there is very difficult that that ADR will have success. ADR will have is based on that the parties recognize the issue and that they both are trying to put from themselves to solve this case in good faith. So I am going to have an example that is that the negotiation process for peace in Colombia that we had like some years ago, and we still have our conflict that has like over 60 years of existence. Is I think the longest civil war in the world. And in Colombia, there's been several negotiation processes to build peace. And one was in 1998, and we had other one in 2014. And even though that we still have our conflict and our civil war in Colombia, the negotiation process that we had for building peace set the ground for some changes that are being made still in the country, and some challenges that we still have to face, because that negotiation process that we had is not that yes, we ended war and we're not going to have more conflicts anymore, as we explained in last session, but it was an agreement for some bases that needed to be addressed in the country so that all parties can benefit. And I am going to go from in these techniques that I explained, that are several. I am going to go over two big groups that you can separate them, and one are self-compositive alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that are why they are self-compositive. They are self-compositive because they involve the parts that are participants in the conflict. They involve those parts in the composition of an agreement or on a solution. So in the self-compositive ADR mechanisms, I want to highlight two that are the ones that we are going to offer Gravitons. And those are mediation and conciliation. The difference between mediation and conciliation is that in mediation, the third part acts like a facilitator for the communication of the parties involved, and helps them to ease the looking for solutions. But in the mediation, the third part does not propose a solution, just eases the process, but the solution has to come from the parties involved. And instead of that, in conciliation, the third part is invested with the ability to propose decisions regarding the issue. But in conciliation, this decision is not taken as a verdict of a jury, but instead is taken as a proposal for the parts to accept. If the parts like so, like that is why this ADR needs so much the commitment of the people, because maybe in a conciliation process, a conciliator can give can propose a solution, and then if the two parts or if the parts involved are not don't agree with that decision, then they will need to scale the conflict or the solution of the conflict to a higher institution. And that is when it comes the hetero-compositive ADR, that is arbitration. That is when neither the mediation or neither the conciliation work. Then you ask for a group of external parties that should be third parties. You invest them with the ability to make a decision on the dispute, but the decision of this arbitration process is imposed to the parties. So that is the difference between hetero-compositive and self-compositive. So self-compositive is when the parts are involved in the proposed solution and that they have to agree with it. And arbitration is when they rely on the decision that is taken by this third part. So in the gravitons basically are going to be mediators and conciliators in DAOs. That is basically what they are going to do. That's like the scope that we have after this training, that we can approach to a community and offer this service if people is having disputes or if the community is having a dispute. Then we will be able to ease the communication in that dispute if it's the case of a mediation, or if it's a conciliation, we can like propose solutions, but our solution is not like a verdict, or is not. It is like an advice process and like, yes, a solution that can have the problem, but what legitimates the solution is the commitment of the parties to agree with that. And with that, I pass to some of the steps of a mediation process. And as I was saying before, as there are many ADR techniques, there are also many frameworks or that tell steps for mediation process or for conciliation process or for acting as a third part. Some of them have like 3 steps that are like pre-cycling, cycling, and post-cycling. That is the cycle of justice circles. Some of them have 4 steps, like non-violent communication. Some of them have 6 steps. And yes, so this framework is not fixed. It's not like, it doesn't matter so much how many steps they are, but what is the process that they are trying to show. And the process, and with the steps that I am mentioning here, that are 6, basically starts with planning. And it's like before the mediation process begins, the mediator has to help the parties decide how are going to be the communication mechanisms that they are going to have, how is going to be their communication, if they are going to communicate one another directly, or if they are going to have the third part acting like as a person who has to approach each of them individually and then like communicate the intentions of the other. And basically that relates a lot to observation, to knowing who should be present in the process, who are the important stakeholders in the process, and who are the person that also should not be like too much involved in the conflict. And then we go to an introduction that is like when the parties are gathered together, the mediator should introduce the participants, the process, and should outline how are they going to be working and how are they going to be like addressing this issue and like having this formal like acceptance on the process, because the goal of the mediation process is to help the parties to have the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So we are going to present to them our intentions to help them to get to an agreement, and that is like an introductory moment for a mediation process. And then you when you start that mediation process, you will need to have this moment of opening remarks. And this is something that it's best when it's done with the presence of of both parts, because it's important for the other part to listen. And it's also important for this to have like a previous process talking with each of these parts, asking them to try to explain their points of view without judgment. Because if the parts starts like talking about judgments, and then the other part start judging the other, and then the communication is broken. So it's a task of the mediator to have the communication on track and to keep the communication non-violent, so that the dialogue can prosper and not turn into an antagonist process. And in this moment, it's important for the parts involved and for the mediator to understand the feelings of the parts involved. As we are seeing here, these four words are the key words of nonviolent communication. So it's very related to this process that we've been talking since the first session, of like observing, feelings, like identifying the needs and making requests. Is some of the is some of that like idea, but framed into steps, like in a mediation process. And when each of those parts like express their view of the disputes, then you can like map some of the feelings and some of the interests around the discussion, so that and like and the mediator has to ask, and also the disputant has to ask questions. What does the other person want, and how can they arrive to a better understanding for each one of the parties' needs and concerns. And if the parties reach an impasse, the mediator has to diagnose the obstacles and work to get the discussion back on track. Because as I was telling you, it is normal that when people is talking about a dispute, they like start scaling, and then like the communication can be broken at any moment if they start like judging or having or using strong language. But the mediator has to diagnose these obstacles and try to have always the discussion back on track. Then in this step that we are seeing, we have the caucuses, and is these small groups where you will have to communicate to all of the parts involved, like what are the benefits and what are the risks of each of the solutions that are proposed. I liked a lot what Ostrom said, that we have to have ex ante costs and ex post costs. So we should have we should measure the costs of implementing the decision, but also the costs of sustaining a decision. And in these caucuses, the idea is that we can gather favorabilidad, like willingness to put an agreement in place, and trying to have this communication between the collectives, so that they work with the decision that is being taken. And then we have the negotiation process, that is when you start formulating ideas and requests to meet each party's core interest. And the mediator can lead with all parties in the same room or engage in such shuttle diplomacy, that is moving back and forth between the teams, gathering ideas, proposals, and counter proposals. So this is not like a fixed thing that you have to go it's 6 steps, or it's like a process that you have to understand, that is gathering information, understanding, mapping the conflict, helping to ease the situation, not going through the branches of the conflict, but trying to see the root of the conflict, and then trying to make requests that meet the expectations and the interest of the parties. So with that, now that we are talking about making agreements, in negotiations, I want to explain this word that is BATNA, that is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And this is a very easy graph of how always we have most desired outcomes that sometimes differ and are far from the other one, and we have least acceptable agreements that we are not so much willing to make. But when, even though there are most desired outcomes, or yes, even though there are most desired outcomes or least acceptable agreements, we also have this mutual motivation zone, that is the zone of all possible agreements, where even though you're not going to, you are still not going to have the least desired outcome, and therefore well, you're going to halfway.
You're breaking up again, Juan.
Yeah, you're breaking up a lot, Juan.
Sorry. Can you hear me better now?
So I didn't hear you for like a whole minute there.
Okay. But the best alternative to negotiated agreement, and the idea of a negotiation is to try to build a bridge. And what is building a bridge? Is when you each of these and very separate from each other, you try to get them to that zone of agreement where you try to connect them, and that is what we say of building a bridge. Building a bridge negotiation is to try to approach parts that are far from each other to a zone of possible agreement. So now that we are building a bridge that is takes us to a best alternative to a negotiated agreement that is like meeting halfway between parts or approaching and building like communication between these two parts, between parts that are far from each other. I would like to use a framework that is named in one of the videos that I send with William Uri, because I think it's really practical for a purpose. And he's saying how to sustain the bridge. Here we'll be building a bridge. We are bringing together people that are far away from each other and trying to take them to a possible agreement and bring them to a possible agreement. And here, yes, we can build that possible agreement, but the bridge collapse if it doesn't have space to be robust. And these spaces for a sustainable bridge are the balcony and the third side. And what do we mean when we say the balcony? The balcony is state of mind. Like going to the balcony is when you're distressed and when you don't know like how to solve this conflict. Sometimes you just need a pause. Sometimes if we are having a conflict and we don't know how to manage it and we keep arguing and arguing, we are not favoring the conflict, like the conflict resolution. Instead, we are favoring like the discussion and maybe an antagonist position. But it is very important to understand the balcony like a state of mind where we can like make a pause if because it's strategic. We can like spend months making an agreement and building a bridge, but maybe in one moment of anger we can throw the agreement to the garbage. So it's important not only to make agreement as a bridge, but to like have this calm state of mind to know that the decisions that we're taking are like the best decisions and that we are handling the issue, trying to handle the issue to have the best outcome from it. And also, when you go to the balcony, you can also remember what is the price that you wanted. What is the thing that you are fighting for? And maybe you can like calm down without pause and then like understand that if you want to have your price, maybe you can like cede with some of the things that the other part wants. And also going to the balcony is something that gives us a different perspective. We are like too much into a trouble, and sometimes we are spending on it too much, and we're seeing it from the same point of view. We have to like go to the balcony, and then we can see that same issue from a different perspective. So like here, the balcony is not like a physical place; it's more like a state of mind where you have to keep yourself like understanding and having the eyes on the prize and having and understanding different perspectives, and that if the conflict is not resolving, it's sometimes it's good to give time to things. Sometimes you want to like the things to get addressed really quickly, and that harms the conflict. Sometimes we have to let things like calm down and talk to the parties so that the communication can come through. And this is why it's so important to go to the balcony, because when you go to the balcony and you take this pause, you can change from a hyperarousal zone to an optimal arousal zone. This is something that psychologists like um, like talk about, and it's like the window of tolerance, and that we all have this window of tolerance where sometimes we are hyper aroused or sometimes we are hyper aroused, and we have to try to keep ourselves in the optimal arousal zone for managing conflict, because um, as I said before, maybe you can spend months trying to get into an agreement, and then you come to a hyper arousal zone where you are emotional reactivity, and like and you have a disorganized cognitive process, and you can take an irrational decision just because you were in a hyper arousal zone. Or maybe you are in a hyper arousal zone and you like numb your emotions, or you like disable your cognitive processing, or you like inhibit yourself from sensations. So to manage a conflict, it's strategical to keep yourself in the optimal arousal zone and help to keep the parts in the optimal arousal zone. If you see that one of the parts is hyper aroused, maybe you can like listen to them and like take notes from what they are saying, but also to invite them to calm down a little bit, and then you can also talk to them later when they are more calm, and you can see like the difference between the statements that they make. And also when someone is like inhibiting to seeing the conflict, it is strategic for the conflict manager to like show the conflict, and to show some of the and to talk about some of the feelings that like maybe she or he is not like trying to feel, so that they can all come again into their optimal arousal zone, and be able to take a good decision. And um, when we understand the window of tolerance, we understand what is happening to us when we are experiencing distress, and we can ask ourselves and ask the conflicting parties when managing a situation: am I hyper aroused or hyper aroused? Maybe you are angry about something, and you are angry and you are angry. Just take a bath, and like that would help you very easily to like calm yourself down. And after you take a bath, or after you take a run, or after you meditate, then you will have like another perspective of the conflict. So that is why it's so important to go to the balcony. And each of us has different ways to go to the balcony. There are people like they like to have time alone, or there are people that like to sleep, or there are people that like to go out with friends. Those All of those are mechanisms for keeping a calm mind. So there are different rituals, and each of you have to like recognize what are the rituals that they can that one can like practice when they want to return to their optimal arousal zone. And as I was talking before, there is meditation, there is like playing video games. All those stuff is good if if you're using it to like calm yourself down. Or maybe if you are hyper aroused, you can go make some exercise, or you can like talk with another person, so that you can like understand your own feelings. And as Jill Bolte Taylor noted, the physiological lifespan of an emotion in the body and brain is 90 seconds. So we can control our emotions by the thought we trigger in our mind. That means if you're hyper aroused and you only keep thinking hyper aroused, you will only have hyper aroused thinking, and you will like keep yelling stuff at yourself or to the other person mentally. But if you go to the balcony, you are going to be able to change the lifespan of that emotion. And this is a practice that I have shared here in the community that works for me, that is called Ho'oponopono. But everyone can find the best way to return to its optimal arousal zone. You can see this video. It's really good. It takes like a minute, 2 minutes of your time. And it's very easy because it shows that sometimes when we charge our memory, we don't let like things go through with our lives. So it's good sometimes to let things go. And when you let things go and you like calm your mind, then like light can go through yourself. And I say it's a technique that works for me because I practice it. Like when I'm in distress, I try to close my mind and say, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you, several times. And after some of minutes, I am calm again. And I also like make these wristbands that I give to my friends, and that reminds me also of these words when I see them in my hands or in my friend's hands. So it's you have to search what is the best technique for you to go to the balcony. And now we are going to go to the other base of our build of our bridge. We have the balcony and we have the bridge, and now we have the third side. And who is the third side? The third side can be outsiders and insiders, but the third side that we want to be as gravitons, we want to be insiders that bring the sides together. These insiders are the ones that are trying to build a bridge. And to be a good third side in a conflict, sometimes you have to keep the communication confidential so that outsiders don't influence on the conflict management process that is being held between the sides. So yes, that is the formula. That is the formula: balcony, bridge, and third side. And the formula is like the way not just to get to an agreement, but to sustain an agreement with a calm mind, and also to have a third side that helps to build to bring the parts together, and also the third side also helps to bring legitimacy. As I was telling before in the example of Colombia, for the negotiation process that we had several countries being a third side. Amongst them, there was Norway and Cuba. And actually, the peace negotiation process was held in Cuba. So Cuba and Norway were these third sides that helped Colombia and to have this safe space to have this dialogue. Because if we had this dialogue like in Colombia, some of the people that were from the FARC could have been like exposed or attacked or something. And this was like a neutral country, Cuba, where both the government and both the guerrilla like felt that they could have a dialogue in peace. And Norway was also one of the third sides that gave legitimacy to the agreement. But I want to show that sometimes, like an agreement, even though that it has like a balcony or a third side, is very difficult to keep because this is a new that says like countries that are third part or guarantees from the peace agreement in Colombia ask the government to reinforce security to leaders and people who left like the guerrilla. So yes, Cuba and Norway expressed their preoccupation for the growing number of murders of ex-guerrillas and social leaders in the country. So this third side are the people who try to maintain the legitimacy of the agreement. Because what happened? We made this agreement with the past president, and now the new president said, okay, I don't like those agreements, I am not going to apply them. So it's like this how can we like make an agreement and within our inner self like try to not follow that agreement or by any internal or political change that may happen. The third sides are those like can argue to defend what the agreements that the parts themselves they are not like complying to. So that's why Norway and Cuba like sent a letter to the Colombian government saying like, hey, we helped you to take these decisions and now you are not like making them. So please, like as we are like testimonies of those, like we can ask you to like follow what you said, and we can say that you are not doing what you said you were gonna do. So the third side is very important in a negotiation and in like managing a dispute. And gravitons are going to be like third siders. Are going to be these third siders who may approach to a conflict, but with the intention of helping to build a bridge and to keep that bridge like robust and so it doesn't like breaking parts. So what is being a good third part? Being a good third part is to be able to procure spaces for each part to trust in the process and open themselves on the issue and collect valuable information. Also, a good third part should take into account the feelings of each part, because ignoring the feelings can prevent from being unsolved. A third part should feel comfortable with strong emotions. In fact, it has been suggested that an important part of becoming a third part is to become sensitized to the feelings of others as well as self. And a good third part should be able to map and clarify the situation, helping the parties to understand their own interests and risks and explore all the possibilities to confirm a satisfactory agreement. Also, a third part can also help to make informed decisions, pondering expected costs and expected benefits to a negotiated agreement. Any question until now? How are you feeling? How is the class? How is the training going?
Great. It's a little bit hard to hear you at times because you're breaking up so much, but good otherwise.
Sorry, my English is really bad today. Okay, so I will continue.
Just one thing, this just to kind of clarify. So like this is more sort of formal structure that like MBC can work within and is a part of as like a component.
Yes. That is why we started with NVC in the first session, because NVC is like a pillar from which ADR, alternative dispute resolution, is built. We cannot have alternative dispute resolution without nonviolent communication. It's very important that through the whole process, and to be able to formally help in the search of solutions for conflict, it is very important to be able to apply nonviolent communication, and to also to understand conflict as something that can be transformative rather than something negative just by itself. So empathy is the key. Empathy is the key to be a good third part, and empathy is the key to be a good mediator, and empathy is necessary to be able to apply certain principles of negotiation. So, such as separate people from problems, ease communication between conflicting parties, focus in the interest and not in positions of the people, generate variety of alternative paths to propose solutions, and use objective or credibly neutral criteria to generate legitimacy and impartiality. Empathy is something that brings us together and helps us to take rational and pacific decisions, because individuals who feel underappreciated or ignored are more prone to fall in irrationality just to defend themselves. So right now we went and we saw what is alternative dispute resolution, and we saw that the idea of Gravitons is to be able to provide mediation and conciliation to DAOs, and that the idea is to build a bridge, but to sustain that bridge with the third side, that the third side is going to be like Gravitons. We are going to be this third side who can add legitimacy to the agreement, and we are going to have this balcony that is to provide the calm state of mind to be able to sustain nonviolent communication, and to sustain the view on the price that we can have as an agreement, and to have a calm state of mind to address the issue, and to sustain the negotiation. So right now, I want to share with you what are the ethical standards that are also requirements for the Gravitons. All of you that have been attending to these classes, to these trainings, have received some POAPs. And the idea is that if you have 3 or more POAPs, then you can become the first generation of Gravitons that would be able to be this third part, this legitimate third part, to others. But we will have standards that are requirements to join and to stay in the collective. So that maybe you can have your POAPs and you can become the first generation of Graviton, but if you somehow violate one of these standards, then that is a reason for exclusion from the group. So these are very important, and that is why I wanted to finish with this part of this training with telling this, and is that Gravitons and mediators have to understand and the process of ADR as a voluntary process, and it's a voluntary process both from the Gravitons and also for the parts involved, the parts involved can go with this process on as far as they feel comfortable. If they feel they are not comfortable with this, then the legitimacy of the agreement that we are going to is in doubt, and that makes that the whole process is difficult. It's more difficult. So we have to understand that we cannot coerce people into managing their disputes through these mechanisms. This should be something voluntary, and then we should also respect self-determination, and it's the ability to promote voluntary agreements, and the outcome of the dispute belongs to the parties and not to the mediator, and that each of those parties can self-determinate autonomously, and that there is no like external coercion that it are like putting pressure in the parts. Each part can like determinate autonomously. It's really important to recognize when there is conflict of interest, and it would be normal, like if a graviton says, I am not capable of facilitating a conversation in this moment because the parts are hyper aroused, and maybe I will give some time to this issue, so that maybe the conflict of interest that is happening right now can ease a little bit, so that we can like have a conversation and a voluntary like a process of handling the dispute. And also mediators and gravitons should state competence and should be competent with the cases they are involved, because as we are a community of experts, the mediator, besides being trained in alternative dispute resolution, should be able to prove deep understanding of the specific topics that the dispute may be about. So maybe I am not like a smart contract expert. So maybe if the issue is very related to like a code or something, maybe I even though I am an expert in alternative dispute resolution, maybe I will not be able to understand or to be competent in that case. So it's really important for the gravitons and to state competence on the issue, and to have like this professional responsibility with the role that if they feel that they are not capable of handling the issue, or that if they feel that other person would be better handling the issue, it's very much encouraged to say so, because that would help the whole process itself. This is another principle that is really important, and is confidentiality, because if, the information related to these processes should be handled privately and only strategically shared with the agreements of the parties. Unwanted information filtered by the mediator is a reason to remove from the gravity group, because we don't want people in the gravity group like to be people that make a cause further harm by using this information for personal interest, or to yes, for personal interest. It's not good to handle this information publicly, because that is a key for being able to build trust in the process. And the idea here is not to expose anyone, but to help on reaching for solutions. So yes, confidentiality is something really important. Also because when people open with conflicts, they may say some things that because of their initial state of mind of hyper aroused or hyper aroused, they may something that does not accurately reflect their point of view on the conflict, and that they could, and like filtering that information could leave them like in a bad place. So it's really important for the gravitons to be able to keep this information confidential. And we as gravity will only like we will have a database where will keep the registry of the conflict, but we will not keep sensitive information. We will only keep like the registry if there was an agreement or if there wasn't. And gravitons should be neutral. By their example of empathy and acceptance of different point of view with freedom from favoritism. And this is another ethical standard, that is professional responsibility, and that mediation is a professional job, and it is something that should be done with diplomacy and prudence, and like with all the professionality that you could use in a normal job, because it is not like an informal process. This is something that is something that is going to be formal and kept for the well-being of different communities. And the idea of the gravitons as well is to have this group of people having a rotation, where new trainings. This is the first training, but the idea is that we repeat this training once or twice a year, and that will encourage new members to become part of the gravity team. And when this is something that we have talked about, but it is something that still needs to like be completely figured out, and it's like the maximum time that you can be in this group, because this rotation was said to avoid like centralization of power. And maybe if there is like a graviton who is in the gravity group for like 10 years, maybe he has like too much information or too much power over the group. But the idea of this is to have a very rotative group. So what we initially said is like after 3 years, you cannot like offer this anymore, but you can still like maintain in the group as a whole, because in the next sessions, not in the next one, because in the next one we are going to go over cases, but in the next sessions, I think it's the 6th session, we're going to go like in a deep dive on how those gravity like will work. And yes, with that, I think that I finished this first section of this training, that was to explain to you about negotiation, BATNA, and dispute resolution. Do you have any questions?
Well done. Thank you.
Okay. I want to have some time then to prepare the next session, because the next session, the idea is that we can have some practical cases. So I would like if we can like have some pairs or groups of 4 so that you can like divide these cases and then like argue these cases to have like a more practical session, the next one where each one of you can like talk about how did you realize, how did you went with these cases, and also if you have another case you want to work at, you can tell to me as well, like, okay, I have a case that I can work at, and we can yes, the idea is that in the next session maybe you are the ones that you can like talk about how did you go by handling these cases. Well, I have 2 cases. One is with low complexity, and one is with high complexity. So you can tell me which one do you want, and you can like try to have like pairs so we can work on this.
I need to go.
Okay. Okay. So I am going to make here this list. And how do you feel about selecting your pair right now, or what do you think? If like the idea is that I like give to you a case, it would be like 3 or 4 pages for you to read, and to develop that like role play with your pair. If you don't know, I can maybe assign some pairs, but I don't know if that would be like imposing something.
I would love it that if it was like selecting for you or random somehow. Like it would be nice if you ask for the people who wants to participate and then randomly create the groups. That would create more diversity. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah, I
Okay,
agree
then.
with Septimus. I think it would also be a lot easier if you just paired maybe, I don't know if you think it's a group of 3 to 4 in case there is somebody that can't be present next week. And those groups just find a way to get together next week.
Okay, then that's what I will do, and I will send you. I just took a pic of the person who of the list of people that was here, so I am going to divide the cases, and I will send the cases by DM. Oh, as well as the POAP code is broken, and I am going to send the link to each of you individually.
Thank you, Juan.
Well, I think we finished a little bit early. I think it's good that the time that we have worked, and I think I explained what I wanted to explain today. So if anyone has any questions, I can be here to answer them. If not, you can leave, and I really appreciate to come on these calls.
Thank you, Juan. That was fun.
Okay.
See you, Juan.